People are going to buy from you no matter what you're selling if they like you, like, know, and trust. And that's one of the big things is that we push our guys to get to join networking chapters. BNI is a big one out here. Business Network International, the largest networking chapter in the world, and it teaches you how to the giver's game mentality and how to know, like, and trust. How to become known, liked, and trusted.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Going Beyond the Deal podcast. Today, I have my friend, Mr. Carlos E. Sanchez, the president of Continental Roofing Company. Carlos has led the business since 2009. Continental serves the greater Cincinnati and northern Kentucky across all residential and commercial roofing, as well as siding and gutters. You know, the big differentiator with them is they lean into community and really just operational excellence. So super excited to get Carlos on the call today. How are you today, my friend?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm very, very good.
Yeah.
So let's start. Carlos, for anyone meeting you for the first time, who is Carlos E. Sanchez today? And tell us what Continental Roofing Company is.
Well, first of all, and I'll let you edit this out, it's Continental Roof Company, not roofing.
Roof Company. My apologies.
No, that's okay. It happens a lot. We did that because we wanted to get that feel of the old school, 1800s, company that did whatever, fidgets. So that's a great question. Who am I? Because everybody wants to know, what I do for work, or they say living, but that's not necessarily what I do for a living. It's what I do for work. I grew up a child of immigrants, like I was telling you earlier. Born in California, raised in Texas. Got thrown into the roofing world by chance, just looking for a job. I answered an ad in the Houston Post when there was two papers in Houston. Said roofing sales needed, no experience necessary, and that fit me. So it started there, and in 1994, I started working as a sales rep, and then quickly moved into a admin role with a larger roofing company that's now since sold out to the big boys at Peterson Dean out in California. But just kind of in the background, doing a lot of admin stuff. I was very introverted, but getting into the roofing world brought me out of that shell a little bit, and just kind of realizing early on in life that I was the kid that wanted to help others out. Giving toys and candies to my buddies who didn't have it, and realized that I had an opportunity to be able to do something on a bigger scale by owning my own company. Trying to make things happen, putting food on the table and putting food on other people's table at the same time.
I love that. I love that. So take us through, you said about, born in California, Texas. Talk about, early growing it up and, what are some of the early influences that really kind of shaped your standards?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I was born in California, was there till I was probably in third grade, 7 years old, I think is what it was like. Again, being raised in a very, very loving family, the Hispanic culture is a little different in that, we grow up with our grandparents, everybody's under one roof and helping that out. So I think, having that loving, caring family kind of definitely set the tone for me, being that child and wanting to be able to do those things for others helped set that tone. Like I was telling you earlier, I was very introverted. I'm your typical Virgo, if you believe in any of that crap. But I was very, very artistic, very introverted. And when I got into the roofing business, I was surrounded by A-type personalities. It really has helped me do something like this. Get on a podcast, and I led a large networking group of 78 people at one point, where we met every week, and I was in front of the mic the whole time. So I think of it all as a part of God's plan. For a while there, I try to control it, and then you get older and realize that you've got no control over anything, and you start giving some of that up and realizing that there's a great opportunity in what I was doing to be able to help others reach out and do some help within the community. And that's what we focus on. Of course, we try to put roofs on. That's what puts food on the table. But within that realm, within that world, we're able to do some really, really cool things within the community.
Well, they say you make plans and then God laughs, right? Like
Yeah.
I forget the exact expression, but no, very, very true. So I was doing some research on you, obviously, and you started out, it sounded like as an insurance adjuster. I would think that would be very kind of beneficial in getting into a business that's largely insurance driven. What did that teach you about the game and how it's really played?
Well, just to give you an idea of how my mind was thinking is I was a roofing salesman when I got my license to become an adjuster. Our world was very seasonal, especially if you chase storms. It's very seasonal. So during the winter, you're not really doing a whole lot. So we were not only learning how to make a living on the off season, but also get the ins and outs of the insurance business since we were dealing with a lot of adjusters. That's why I did that, was to try to, add another, tool to my belt, so to speak. I did it for a few years, and it was fun, and it was just like storm chasing, where you're running around God's green earth, 7 or 8 months at a time, in a different place, different people, different friends. It was an incredible experience, but you get tired of it. You get a family, and that family starts to pull you in a little bit more than you would when you're had a little bit of wanderlust, going. But yeah, that's why I did that, and it has helped me tremendously. It has helped me. Number one is respecting those guys, those people, is not, we're not combative with them. It's not an adversarial relationship. We always try to bring them in as a partner. We're trying to take care of the customer. We want to be able to do that in the best, most professional way as possible. So that's how I train our guys to deal with adjusters. So it has helped in that sense.
I have to commend you on it because you're not the first person that I've heard tell me that it was imperative for them to study that industry as a part of their business model. So I had a longtime client that was in the auto body business,
Oh yeah.
owned multiple locations, et cetera. And it was those are the guys that are going to pay the bills, right? So let's find out how they like it, how they want it, what's the best way to communicate with them. So, I mean, I think personally, brilliant move on your part, to do that.
Yes, definitely helped quite a bit.
So, was there a moment in time when you realized after you had gotten into this that you had really found your purpose or your life's work? I mean, when did you really feel like, okay, this is for me? Was there a moment that you realized that?
Yeah, that's funny you say that because I hated it. I hated the roofing business for many, many years. It was such a dog eat dog world, and so seasonal. It was just, I just couldn't stand it. So
Yeah.
I moved to Ohio. Believe it or not, it took me moving to Ohio and being in this seat and starting my own company. When I started my own company, things changed. When I started to see the kind of change we could do, and the smiles we could put on people's faces doing the things outside of the roofing world, or we bought $50 gift cards for all of the Westchester, which is the township that we live in, Westchester PD, fire, and EMS. 250 people, over 250 people that we gave $50 gift cards to have those men and women come to us and say thank you for that. You made especially with the climate that was going on with policing and so forth in the last few years, that made us feel good. Putting it on our roof for an older lady, 80 years old, who was going to get kicked out of her house because of the state had a hand in the way that she ran her household because of her children who were disabled. You know, her being crying and telling us that if it wasn't for us, she'd have been kicked out of her house. Those type of things really, hit home. They really do. And that's when I started realizing that I can enjoy this job. I can enjoy this world. If I'm doing this for other people, it'll make up for the hard, dealing with the general public and all those things that we got to do, and dealing with adjusters that aren't very good, in a good mood. All those things that come together, and we were able to put a smile on someone's face, then we're certainly down for that, for sure.
I think that you and I are both, we share that same spirit. For me, I find joy in serving others. Like that's what fills my cup personally. So I was a plumber's helper at one point in time, right? So like when somebody like they didn't have heat or whatever, and you could do that and you could help them, that's when I really realized that I was doing something special. And now with investment banking, what I do, I help people sell companies and do all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Being able to help someone execute, especially it's like business, someone's business is like their child. If I can help take their beautiful baby and then, help it grow up and go to college, like that's what's really fulfilling for me.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I see.
so take us back to the early days of Continental Roof Company. What are the first customers, first hires? What were some of your first real mistakes?
Well, first of all, hiring in the roofing industry in that field is tough when you have the mentality that we do. I don't want to say most, but the general consensus within that roofing industry is profit, profit, profit.
Mhm.
Make a killing as much as you can, as fast as you can. And when you've got sales guys that grew up within their organizations that they started off with, trying to move out and grow, and they come to us and we're all the opposite. We're no. We want to help as many people as we can. The giver's gain philosophy was huge. So hiring the wrong people, first of all, was one of the big mistakes that we would make. Learning to vet people more and more than just hiring somebody because it's a warm body. The second thing that we did, I got into the new construction side of business. I was the largest new construction roofer in the Cincinnati area for 2 or 3 years, and it was overwhelming. It grew so fast. We did 600 or 700 roofs a year just in new construction alone. The stress that it put on me was incredible. Number one, the low margins. Number two, the slow pay and the demand that those guys have. And, they've got a job to do themselves. And I'm speaking of the superintendents of the builders. They've got a job to do themselves. And I get that. But that was the second mistake I made. When later on in life, here most recently, when we have the VCs knocking on our door wanting to see what it would take to buy us out, that's one of the first questions they ask. Do you do any new construction? I said, nope. And they say, okay, good. So we knew we made the right step. We made the right move when we started getting those kind of responses.
I have a question for you that's I'm going to come to later in regards to employees, because I think that's a really interesting concept, right? Because you're going to hire somebody to do sales for you. You're going to want somebody that's going to be the best salesperson.
Absolutely.
But sometimes if they're not in alignment with the mission, that's a challenge. We'll get to that. I don't want to skip ahead. But so when you said with new construction, the question I had for you is, how did you decide what work, early on to pursue and what to say no to?
Well, that was probably the mistake, that not saying no. Like when the word gets out that you're doing an incredible job, everybody wants you to do their work. And that's the problem I had. I had large tract home builders knocking on my door saying they needed a roofer for a subdivision. Before you knew it, we had all their business, not just the one subdivision. And that was
Yeah.
not being able to say no, not being able to say, honestly, letting the money rule, thinking of those big numbers, thinking about my revenue at the end of the month when we finished with this subdivision. That's when I started to make the big mistakes. And that's when it got. They say more money, more problems. That was really, really true for us. It just became
Yeah.
such a headache and a stressful thing, especially during the winter when new construction doesn't stop. It keeps rocking and rolling. It's not like residential where people kind of
Yeah.
pull back. New construction keeps rocking and rolling, and so those bills are due. Our roofers get paid weekly, and materials get paid every month. So when the checks aren't coming in at 60, 90 days sometimes, then it becomes a very stressful situation.
Can imagine. I can imagine. So, like you said, right? In an industry where the lowest bid often wins, how do you personally define quality?
Well, I mean, when it comes to the product, it's putting out a good product at an affordable price. We touched on this earlier about profitability. There's no reason why you can't make a great profit and not feel like you're robbing someone, like some of these companies are. That's the mentality I was touching on earlier. Is that um, putting on? It's not just the product, but it's the service, it's the reputation, it's the package that you're putting together for someone. It has to be all rounded and make sure that what you're delivering is what you promised, and that's key. Those are the key
Yeah.
points.
Because the challenge for me, just I've had to replace a roof before. The crazy thing to me was, okay, I'm not just going to hire one or get one bid, right? Obviously, you get multiple. And when I tell you, Carlos, it was like 20 different, like one spectrum, another spectrum. And I was, okay, well, why is this person 30,000 and why is this person 12? Like, it's not like, okay, we're all around, like, what I say with like investment banking, commercial banking, whatever those things are that we do, product is largely the same.
Yeah,
Cost of doing work is largely the same. It's more a personality thing. Okay, do we trust in this person, whatever it is? But you hire DBD to help you sell your company, or you hire, Goldman Sachs, it's going to be the same, around the same price,
right.
right? But how do you get, like, I don't understand in the market, like, that's why I say with contractors, it's so hard for me to have any trust. But it's like, how do you say 12 and then this guy says 30? I don't get it.
the best thing, and I say best and with tongue in cheek, is when someone says, "I didn't want to use you because your price was so much lower than the competition." Like that doesn't even make sense. Listen to what you're saying. And I tell them off, and I start the conversation off with my customers. I start off the conversation with, "Listen, we are locally owned, privately owned company. We don't have shareholders to account to, and so our prices are going to be much more realistic." And one of my taglines when I'm in the networking world is, "You shouldn't have to take out a second mortgage just to get your roof replaced." That's where we start. We start off by setting them up with the realities of what it takes. Sometimes I'm very even honest about my margins. What I'm charging you is a fair profit margin compared to what I'm having to put out in labor and materials. These other people, they've got VCs, they've got shareholders to answer to, or partners to answer to, so they're going to try to maximize their profit. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's great. We need people like that so that we can get our work. So it's definitely a process that we start off with from the very beginning, setting them up with the expectation that we are an affordable roofing company, and that's key. That's key in our market.
Because you've been very outspoken about doing the right thing all the time and in an industry that, like I said, it can struggle with trust. So what other standards do you refuse to compromise on?
Materials. That's one thing that you've got some material manufacturers that are less product than others. And when I say that, I mean it literally. They're smaller, thinner shingles, just because they're trying to maximize profit. And when you've got a competitor that comes in that has a superior product, but they don't have the marketing behind it, they're not selling it at the local box stores. I'm not going to name names, but there's certain shingles that are sold at box stores. Well, there's a reason they're sold at box stores. Is because they've built a product that sells in those box stores that's lesser than a locally owned or a smaller manufacturer. And it's probably true with anything. It could be fidgets, it could be, whatever. You've got a large corporation that has the money to advertise, so they put out a product that's lesser than what's out there, or what's the average out there, and because they've got the bigger marketing dollar, the name is bigger, so people think that they're better, and that's where we start off. Again, we start off, part of that education that I've discussed earlier is not only talking about price but talk about product. Here's the heaviest shingle on the market. Here's the thickest shingle on the market. Here's the biggest shingle on the market. I'm not talking about these are the shingles that are sold at Home Depot. These are the shingles that are sold at Lowe's. I'm talking about these are products that I would put on my house. I would prefer this product. As a matter of fact, you can go to my house right now and drive. I'll show you the shingle that I'm trying to sell you. It's on my house right now. And that's not because I got a good deal on it. It's because I want the best product on my house. We live in a high wind area, so I wanted to make sure that the product that we're putting out there is rated for a high wind rating. So you know, those are the things that we won't skip on. I've had to have people sign waivers on certain products because we usually have a problem with it. And they'll demand that they have that product on their roof, and I'll say, okay, not a problem. I will gladly put this product on your roof, but I need you to sign this waiver so that I'm not responsible for when this happens. And I'll list whatever items that are typically, associated with that certain product. So I don't know that you know this or not, but I sit on the board of the Better Business Bureau here at Cincinnati. We won the Torch Award about a year ago, and then before that, we were honorees. And I was asked to be on the board, and that to us is the biggest feather that we can get in our cap. Integrity. It speaks to our integrity. We hold ourselves a little bit higher, a little bit more accountable to one another and to the marketplace, and we certainly don't want to take advantage of what the people in our market have given us. And part of that is getting ourselves to that point to where we're high held up and board members of the BBB. You can't really get much closer than that. So
Not at all. I mean, and you can only lose your reputation once, right?
right.
It's super, super important. I guess a broader question. So it's what are some of your practical trust builders? And I have more to that question. I think, we have a lot of people that listen to the podcast that are business owners that are learning to build trust. They're trying to figure this out. You're in a business where contracting can be one of those things that's not very trustworthy.
Absolutely.
What are some of your practical trust builders? And how do you set expectations with customers before the work begins? I mean, maybe it's take me through the process of hey, I'm raising my hand, Mr. Sanchez, I have a hole in my roof right now. I'm on my second layer of shingles. I have little kids home. It's really cold right now, really concerned. Walk me through the process because I think that's a really great learning experience for somebody is how you're building that trust.
Well, it starts from the very beginning. I've already touched on a couple of things that we do early on. Honesty, obviously, is going to be the number one thing. You be honest, be open. We talk to people about who we are, not just what we do. That's a big sign of anything. I've been a fan of his for years now, and it really speaks to our industry because people are going to buy from you no matter what you're selling if they like you, like, know, and trust. And that's one of the big things is that we push our guys to get to join networking chapters. BNI is a big one out here. Business Network International, the largest networking chapter in the world, and it teaches you how to the giver's game mentality and how to know, like, and trust, how to become known, liked, and trusted. And a part of that, like I said earlier, was speaking to who we are, not just what we do. We're in the roofing business, but that's just what we do for work. It's not what we do for a living. I live nearby. That's the first thing that we do with customers is connect with them. What bumper sticker is on their car? What kind of artwork do they have hanging from their house? Do they have kids running around the yard? Connecting with someone on a one-to-one level, something that they can relate to is huge. That starts off that process, and from there, everything else just falls into place. Being open and honest, touching on those things that are probably going to happen. Listen, I know you've got other bids coming in. Who are they? Can you give me an idea who they are? Oh, they're so and so and so and so. Okay, just so you know, these guys are going to be outrageously high. I don't want you to think that because they're outrageously high, they've got a better product. They have a lesser product. I put on this. You start with that. You start with teaching them, educating them, and when they're making a decision on an educated level, it's a lot easier for them to trust you. They're learning, they're knowing.
How do you build that in your market? Like I understand like, okay, you get to know me, you come to my house, you see the artwork on the wall, you might see that I'm Catholic or whatever. Okay, then you can engage with that or whatever it is. But how do you do that ahead of actually getting called into the home?
Well, we have conversations with them. Nowadays with the lead generation, they know that your nuances. They know whether you're a one call close or you're an upgrade. Or I mean, it's really insane the way things are going right now. Yeah, we have a lot of information on the front end of who this customer is, and then we're a little bit different in that probably 80 to 90% of our business is referrals. We don't get a lot of phone calls off of Google or that type of thing. It's referrals. So we're being referred by someone who's already used our product or has referred us and we've not let them down. So um, I think that's where that begins is in those phone calls that we're making prior to. We have long conversations with our customers before we go out. I know I do. I call them and pick their brain. Why are you getting an estimate? Well, I had somebody out here knocking on doors telling me that well, now I know what to look for. Now I know there's a lot that we can be learning in a 10-15 minute phone call with someone, aside from whether their kid goes to Cincinnati Hills Christian Academy or not.
Got it. Got it. Got it. What I'd be really, curious to hear more now is I love somebody asked me they were talking about how I market myself and how I do this, right? I put myself out there in terms of with the podcast. I just wrote a book. I do all these things. And it's literally to put myself out there. But I've never cold called anyone in my life. Like I've never been like, hey, I'm not the VC guy or the iBanker that's calling Carlos Sanchez saying, hey, roofing businesses are hot to roll up right now. What are you doing, my friend? Let's try. That doesn't work. All of my business that I've ever done has been strictly through referrals. How do you keep that warm referral network? Is there anything you do to incentivize people to refer? Is there any part of your initial sales process that ties to this referral process? I already know that you know the answer to there has to be something magical here. I'm waiting for it.
It's really not. They call it networking, and this for a reason. You got to put in the time. But one of the things that we don't incentivize and we demand of our guys is to join a networking chapter, and that will get you into that groove. That means once you've learned how to network, and that's such a strange way of putting it. Once you learn how to connect with someone, then you can do it anywhere. It doesn't have to be in a networking meeting. It could be at a restaurant. I meet people all the time. I drive my wife crazy because I'll be introducing her to somebody and she's like, "Where do you know this guy from?" I don't know. I just met him. I just met him 5 minutes ago. So it's you become used to that. It not only used to it, you become addicted to meeting new people, connecting with people, hearing their stories. And for me, that's the best part, hearing the story. If they want to hear about me and they pull out of me that I own a roofing company and I get a lead out of it or a job out of it, that's just a bonus. That's the best part about it for me is like I get to tell a story. I met so and so the other day. This guy does this, this, and this, and you won't believe how, it's just another little piece of this story that I'm building for when I'm dead and gone. I'll have experienced all these things. So that's the number one thing is making sure that my guys are know that their part of their job is to go out and meet people, go out and have fun. I tell them all the time, it's fun. It's fun to go grab a drink, go grab a cup of coffee, go talk to people. It's enjoy yourself. Make yourself likable because that's the whole point of this thing is making sure that people can know you, like you, and then ultimately trust you.
Yeah, I don't think that Mrs. Fisher and Mrs. Sanchez would like to go out to dinner with the two of us because it would probably be way too much of us talking to other people besides them because I get the same kind of thing
Yeah.
all the time, right? So I totally get that. I totally get that. So let's just from a technical standpoint, we're talking about roofing. Can you walk us through insurance claims and inspections? Like, walk us through the process and what do most homeowners misunderstand when it comes to roofing and insurance and that whole process?
I think the number one thing that homeowners might misunderstand is that their insurance rates will go up if they file a claim. Okay, that's the one of the big things that we push to people is listen, the insurance rates go up in an area depending on how many claims come out of that area, not your particular claim. Now, if you're somebody that's filed 15 claims in the last 2 years, well, that's a whole different story. But one claim randomly because you had a hailstorm coming through is not going to increase your rates. Now, the hailstorm coming through your neighborhood might raise the rates, but it has nothing to do with your claim in particular. So that's the number one thing. The number two is that you have to go out and get estimates to compare. Insurance pays a certain amount of money for the project that's done. There's a lot of extra work that goes into an insurance claim that homeowners might not realize, meeting the adjuster, preparing, we have an estimating service that does our insurance claims. So it's a charge, it's a fee, there's a lot more that goes into filing a claim and getting it bought than just calling it in and letting it happen. Especially when you're dealing in a market where some of the insurance companies may be a little more adversarial than others. And we deal with that all the time. It's a new one every year that takes the place that's crowned the king of the fighting. Those are the big things right there that we deal with our customers.
Very cool. So we were talking about this, getting into this a little bit earlier, and I remember this from being in the trades as when I was younger, putting myself through college. As far as hiring and retaining great people in a really tough, tight labor market, what's worked and what hasn't in that respect?
First of all, we've had to start paying a salary. It's something that's very common now, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. It's you're no longer able to get the quality salespeople to come in at a commission only basis. So this is something that we started doing a couple of years ago. Now it's tough. It's tough when you're trying to grow as a company and some of your profits are going out through salaries. It's an investment more than anything. It's an investment. So that's probably the big thing right there. Is that's
What about the laborers themselves? I mean, because that's another part of it too. Like for me, I remember, like, I never really realized why my boss that owned the plumbing company liked me so much. And I think it was because of the fact that I took pride in the way that I showed up to into somebody's home, taking off my shoes, using please and thank you. You know, I've seen contractors work at my own home, and I've seen people, they smell like alcohol or they're smoking cigarettes and they leave like it's just kind of, it's one of those things like, how do you find the right people? Because the laborers, that's the real hard part there, right? Because you want to get the right person, but you want to make sure that, you know,
we've got our roofing crews that we use, and you're right. You have to go through the very beginning of onboarding with them, putting them through the process. This is what we expect. This is what we do not allow. This is what we want you to do. This is what we're expected to do. So that's key. And the majority of labor in our industry is Hispanic, one country or another. It's a very, very Hispanic full industry. It really, really is. So speaking Spanish, being able to speak Spanish helps me. I can articulate both English and Spanish and do it comfortably, and I'm able to communicate with crews and being able to reiterate and iterate to them what it is that we're expecting from them, what we don't want them doing, what we prohibit them doing within the job site. But a lot of that is just communication. Number one, it's key to this whole industry.
I mean, you were talking about salespeople, bringing them on a salary, making sure that you have the right labor crews that understand your processes. What are some of the consistent practices that you're using to build and protect this very strong culture that you have? Because that's what I think the secret sauce is here.
Well, I mean, aside from everybody getting their checks when they want to, it's doing the events. Going to hang out, going to lunch together. We do a trip every other year roughly where we take everybody somewhere. We go to Puerto Vallarta, we go to Cancun, incentivizing. Giving bonuses out. I'm very, very, very free in giving when it comes to time off. If you need some time off, then by all means, ask for it and we'll give it to you. It's making sure that you're maintaining that small business feel, if that makes sense. We're locally owned. I am the owner. I tell everybody that I don't own the company owns me. It's one of those, taglines that I use all the time because it's so true. I get a salary just like everybody else does. And I'm able to do some things that they might not be able to do, but um, part of this whole thing is for it to grow and to have the people in place to scale. They might be just salesmen today, but they might be running a whole region or a stable of salespeople underneath them at some point. So being able to offer those type of things, that carrot, dangling that carrot helps. It helps. But ultimately, it's just being there, being open, honest, and upfront, being very transparent, sometimes to a fault, with your people. Let them know that you are just a human being, that you're not a company owner. You're just a guy. You're just a guy that's trying to make it out there in the world just like they are. A little more responsibility when it comes to what we do here. But ultimately, it's about we push the family atmosphere. We want to get to know each other. We want them to know me, and I want to get to know them. From there it grows.
I love it. I love it. So let's get into community and giving back. You've built giving into the DNA of the business. Why was that really important to you from the start? Was that, from based on like just the way you were brought up?
Honestly, yes. Just the way I was brought up. I was always that kid. My mom hated that I'd come home and I didn't have a pair of tennis shoes, a pair of cleats. I remember vividly a pair of cleats. I had two pair of cleats and I gave a pair of cleats to a buddy of mine who didn't have any, and she got so mad at me. But I'd always been that kid. I was always, Boy Scouts was my thing, just one of those things where I just it felt good to give. And that just stuck with me. And I early on, I would talk to the owners of the companies that I was working for and say, "Hey, what do you think about doing a free roof program? We could, broadcast this out. The radio stations would love it. They would give you free advertising. I'd try to pump it up as much as I could, and nobody would do it. Nobody would do it. And I realized at that point that the only way that I was going to be able to make this thing happen is by starting my own roofing company. And I started Continental Roof Company. The name Continental comes from the old Continental Army from back in the day when a ragtag group of British settlers took over a country and made it their own. That's the feeling that I wanted to give. I wanted to give that feeling of that old school entrepreneurial explorer vision that we do, and then everybody was there helping each other out. When you look back in those times, as silly as this sounds, when you look back at those times, people were working with one another, hand in hand. Neighbors were helping neighbors, and that vibe, that feeling, I think permeates through our company, and I love it. I love that we get awards for community hero, that we get awards for things that are integrity awards. I love that. I don't care if we're not the largest or the most profitable roofing company. Everybody gets paid. Everybody makes a living, and we have this profile within our community of being this company that's legit. That's just super legit and giving. I love it.
I love it. I love it. So you mentioned scouting. So that's when people always ask me, well, how did you get that giving mentality, where did that start? I was, from a tiger cub, and I earned the rank of Eagle Scout
Nice.
when I was older. And it's funny, people say to me like, "Well, how'd you learn how to get through, project management for me was getting my Eagle Scout, like that's how I did that." But that muscle of giving and leading with that, for me, it all started with scouting. So I really appreciate you saying that.
I pump it up all the time. People think it's silly, but it really, really taught me that giving service. I mean, it's just embedded within that thing. And then be prepared. That whole motto behind Boy Scouts is be prepared. And that's one thing that my friends, my family all know about me. And I do the old, Boy Scout, hand sign when they're like, "Oh wow, how did you think of that?" I just be prepared. I was just like, it's one thing that stuck with me. When we roll into a campsite or I'm at a convention or something, and somebody says, "I need this," I'm like, "I got that. Hold on." I go grab it. They're like, "Man, why did you think of that?" I was like, "Well, I thought about the things that we might need, and I wanted to be prepared." And that's all Boy Scouts for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. The one thing for me with scouting that's funny is like, what did I get out of it? It's like, what did I not get
Right.
out of it? I mean, I learned how to survive. I learned how to cook. I learned how to
Yeah.
sew my clothes if I had, like, I learned how to be a completely self-sufficient human being with that muscle of giving. And I just think it's great. So we definitely share that
Very
in
cool.
common. Talk to me about Project Parasol. What is Project Parasol?
Project Parasol is our philanthropic wing, if you want to call it that. It's just what we wanted. We were doing so much stuff out in the community that we wanted to give it a name. We wanted to start doing things under the Project Parasol name. The free roof program is a Project Parasol project. The gift cards, we did turkeys one year to all of our first responders. The gift cards are first responders. So I envision at some point that being its own thing, that raising its own funding and doing its own thing. And I thought because we were in the roofing business, the parasol part just fit right in. So,
I think it's great. I love it. I love
but
it.
yeah, that's all it is we gave it a name.
It's so funny that we share in this, right? Like you said, maybe eventually it'll take on its own thing. I'm just trying to get myself financially in the right position because people are like, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to be giving for a living. That's what I want to be doing is giving for a living." So I want to find a way that I could focus on Project Parasol and not on building roofs, But
I think that's where faith comes in. We we sometimes give at the craziest moments, and that's one thing that I've learned to do. I've learned that God has this umbrella over me, parasol over me, that He's telling me, do what you feel your heart needs to do, and I'll take care of you. I'll watch out. So that's one thing that for sure is that I stopped worrying about financially, am I going to be able to make this or make that? Now, do I stress out every now and then come wintertime when we got payroll coming? You bet I you bet I do. But when it comes to those moments where we're going to fix a leak for somebody for free, it's going to be very, very little in terms of cost, then I don't even think about it. We just do it. We just do it. And I think that's where that leap of faith, I think somebody called it uh, blind faith or uh, reckless faith. Somebody called it reckless faith. And
that's
that's a
awesome.
great name
That's
for it.
awesome.
So yeah, of course, I would love to win the lottery, and we play the lottery every now and then. And after that, it'd be a no brainer. There'd be a lot of people being taken care of. There'd be a lot of homeless in homes. There'd be a lot of hungry fed. Uh, but until that day happens, we'll do what we can when we can.
That's great. That's great. So we're coming up on time here. So I wanted to give you a couple rapid fire questions. You can give me a quick response on them.
Sure.
And then I have my $1 million question. I want to let everyone know where to find you, how to get in touch with you, because I really love what you're doing here, Carlos. So
Thanks.
let's get some rapid fires here. What's one habit that keeps you sharp
Working out, Jim.
every day?
Not every day anymore. I'm 58, but I used to be it every day. Yeah.
All right. All right. I accept that. I
Pilates
accept.
twice a week and in the gym sporadically in between there. So,
What's a belief that you've changed your mind about?
oh gosh, God,
You can say next question. It's okay.
yeah, God. I was a very firm agnostic, maybe even atheist for many years. That's, I guess, the big thing that I've changed my mind on.
What's a lesson that you learned the hard way in business?
Oh man, not trust everybody.
To not trust everybody. Okay.
And I still do it to a point where I wait for someone to do me wrong before I lose faith in them. But yeah, there's some people out there that just you just run.
I love it. I love it. What's the best referral that you could receive? And what does the perfect fit customer look like?
Wow. Well, the best referral is a property management company that has hundreds of units that are coming up on needing a roof. And what was the second part?
I think you answered
Yeah,
that's good enough for
yeah,
me.
yeah,
That's good
yeah.
enough for me. What does the perfect fit look like?
Yeah. Yeah, it's honestly people with good stories is I love it. I don't care if I get a roof out of it or not. People with a good story, and I've made many, many, many. And this is the incredible thing about how to travel as much as I had is that it doesn't matter where you're at, whether you're in Riverside, California or New York. Uh, People are the same everywhere. They might have a different accent, but they're the same. Country people are country people, city people are city people. It's amazing how much they have in common, just depending on how they were raised.
I love it. I love it. And here's a fun one for me, because I want to know now. When you're not running Continental Roof Company, what are you doing?
Oh, I love art. I've gotten into painting and writing again, and sketching. I love creating. Period. My wife bought me a wood carving kit, so I'm carving whales and fish and birds. I love creating. I love building something out of nothing.
So, where can people follow you, Carlos, and learn more about Continental Roof Company?
Sure. Well, our website is www.mycincy.roofer.com. That's MYCINCY roofer.com. That's the best way. And, I'm all over social media. LinkedIn is a big thing for me. That's where I probably spend the most time posting is LinkedIn. But yeah, go to YouTube and search my name and roofing, and you'll see a few podcasts about what I am and what I'm about, and that'll help you figure out who I am.
I love it. I love it. We'll put that all in the show notes. Then hopefully going beyond the deal will be the top one, because obviously this was the best podcast you've ever been on.
Yeah, actually, it's very good. I loved it. I enjoyed it.
Okay, good, good, good. Thank you. You played along really well with that one.
Yeah.
So listen, what's your final advice for owners building a service business with real reputation and real legacy?
Don't overpromise. Just be honest. Don't say yes just because you want the sale. That's our number one rule. As I've told guys many many times, that when you simply can't, say I can't. That's it.
I love it. Okay, now the $1 million question. When you look back on your journey, personally and professionally, what's one moment that felt small at the time, but ended up changing everything?
Decided to do the first free roof for Butler County's Board of Developmental Disabilities. This is something that resonates with me. Um, Thinking that we were just replacing a roof and realizing that we were changing someone's life, literally, was mind blowing. Not just mind blowing.
I love it.
Tears everywhere. Everybody was crying. It was crazy.
I love it. Well, Carlos, thank you so much for going beyond the deal with us today.
Thank you.
Really appreciated the color and the candor that we shared here today. We'll have every way to get in touch with Carlos in the show notes. I appreciate everybody joining us today, and let's continue to build something meaningful together. Thank you,
Amen.
Carlos.
Thank you. Appreciate it.